Welcome back to Hardball. Well, two of the biggest national races in 2014, and that's this year, are sure to be the Pennsylvania and Florida governor races. Both states have very unpopular Republican governors right now, where most vulnerable incumbents actually on the national scene. Democrats see both states as ripe opportunities for the taking. The former Republican governor of Florida, Crist, sits with you right now. He's launching a political comeback for his old job, but this time, as a Democrat, he's seeking to defeat the state's right-wing incumbent governor, Rick Scott, who I, for whatever reason, have never liked. And two polls out over the last week show Crist in solid early shape. A poll from the University of Florida out yesterday shows Crist sitting with you now with a 7-point lead over the governor, with 47% preferring Crist over the 40% supporting Rick Scott. And a Quinnipiac poll taken a few days earlier shows Crist running 8 points ahead of Scott with 46% to Scott's 38%. Crist is out with a new book called The Party's Over, How the Extreme Right Hijacked the GOP and He Became a Democrat. Former Florida governor and Democratic candidate Crist joins me now. Thank you, Charlie. I always like you politically. Let me talk about this thing here. First of all, there's an issue that really bothers me. I don't like wars we don't have to fight, we get talked into with bad evidence and bad arguments, and I don't like people being screwed out of voting. You know, somebody called me anti-white the other day on a blog because I fight all the time for minorities to vote.
Right.
I think you can beat somebody in sports, but damn well do it fair. Absolutely. I think you have to have a fair playing field in politics, and everybody should get to vote. Why does your ex-party think the way to fight the demographic changes in this country is to screw the minorities? And this is something you've seen in Florida, and Rick Scott's right behind it.
Absolutely is. When I was governor, even as a Republican in 2008, we had long lines with early voting in Florida. You know, it was Obama versus McCain. And Dan Gelber, who was the Democratic House leader in Florida, called me up and he said, Governor, you got to do something about this. It's wrong. And for me, frankly, it's never been about right versus left. It's been about right versus wrong. And it was a compelling argument to me. And he said, sign an executive order expanding the rights so our fellow Floridians can vote. So I did it. 4 years later.
We're looking at the lines here. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's terrible. It was terrible. 4 years later, Rick Scott faces the same situation. Dan Gelber and I call him and say, you got to sign an executive order like I did 4 years ago. Let our people vote. He wouldn't do it. And, you know, when you look at Rockefeller
Center
election day, nobody had it.
We have Pennsylvania guys up there who openly say it's partisan. I'm not saying they don't like black people. I'm saying they don't like black people voting Democrat. And so what they do is they try to make it harder.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I've been in the discussions. I have seen it, and it's appalling, and it's wrong. And, you know, people would come to me when I was a Republican governor in the Republican Party, not Republican people. Mom and Dad are still Republicans. They're good, honest, fair people. But in the party, the activists really want to try to suppress the vote. And what does that tell you? The guys who can only win when less people vote, that's not the right team, and that's not the right values. And that's not what we ought to be standing for in America. I don't care what party you're in. We need to be, as a democracy, encouraging people to vote. You know, it's important for the democracy to survive that people have the right to vote and vote in a
Okay, that's partisan crap to me. It's just a way to win. I mean, it's dirty politics.
It's wrong.
You do it in Pennsylvania. It's not a southern northern thing. They're doing it everywhere. 36 states under Reince Priebus and the Republican Party are doing it. He hates to hear this, but it is his party, and he could blow the whistle on this.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah, let's talk about the party that you were in, you know, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I always thought of you as a centrist. Now, the Republican Party, even in states like Pennsylvania, has gone hard right. Why? And how hard right is it? I mean, are you going to run the old party, going to run a right-wing guy for president or a woman for president next time, or is it still salvageable? Or is the boat tilted so far right it can't come back?
It's a great question. I don't know what they're going to do. You know, I have given up predicting what they might do. You know, it's incredible to me to see what's happened to today's Republican Party. Jeb Bush said it better than I could ever say it. They are now perceived as anti-women, anti-immigrant, anti-minority, anti-gay couples, anti-environment, anti-education. I mean, pretty soon there's nobody less than the
Well, how's he stay in the party?
I don't know. I feel for him. You know, it's got to be difficult because he's a reasonable guy. You know, I mean, I like Jeb. He is. And he was a good governor. But, you know, today's Republican Party has literally been hijacked by the Tea Party. It happened about 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, I've been arguing with some people. Here's what I don't understand nationally, because Florida is the classic. Tim Russell used to say Florida, Florida, Florida.
Sure.
It's one of the states that really does tell you where we're headed.
Right.
In fact, during the days of falling Chads, whatever it was, I always figured Florida had New York accents, Southern accents, and all kinds of people.
We got it all.
What percentage of that party down there that you were in is hopelessly right-wing right now. Just Tea Partied out, angry at the world, won't change, just can't stand Obama, doesn't want to think anymore.
Maybe 25, 30%.
Well, then why is the tail wagging the dog?
I don't know the answer to that, and it's
because
disturbing.
It is here in Washington with Boehner.
Oh,
yes,
no
is
question.
Boehner the boss? He had to just drop immigration the other day because the tail's wagging him.
Right, and it's appalling, and they ought to have the courage to stand up and say enough is enough.
But you're a politician. To answer the question, why is the tail wagging the dog in your old party?
I can't answer
illogic.
You
can't answer.
No, I really can't. I'm serious. I can't answer that. I can answer things that I can understand and make logical sense to me. I cannot understand and give an answer to something that doesn't make any sense to me at all. There are a lot of good Republicans in this country, and they've let the party be hijacked, and it's a shame. You know, this is the party of Lincoln.
Boehner is still a Republican. He doesn't respect these crazies on the right, but he has to kowtow to them.
He doesn't
have
to. He makes
fun of them.
He doesn't have to. He could do what I did. He could say enough is enough. If this is where your party is going, and that's what you stand for, then I can't be part of it because it doesn't agree with my core
some
principles.
Education.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing you can say about Rick Scott? Because I have this attitude about based upon his performance. What do you think's the worst thing about why he has to be removed and you to replace him?
There's so many, but let me start with his background, his ethics. Rick Scott is a guy who headed a company that had to pay the largest fine for fraud in the history of the United States of America at the time, $1.7 billion, a healthcare company. So what they do? They upcoded. What does that mean in common parlance? It means they stole from people. Who'd they steal from? Taxpayers. You know, they provided it for Medicare. And from patients.
How'd they steal?
Sick people. They upcoded. They cheated. They took too much money. That's why the federal government made him pay $1.7 billion fine. He headed that company. He had to go under oath and talk about it in a deposition. He pled the fifth, Chris, 75 times. I've never pled the fifth in my life.
But all that was before he got elected.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, why would the people of Florida elect the guy who took the fifth 75 times?
Because he spent
I've been told by people, experts in politics, the only people that take the fifth, and they do take it, are people that never expect to run for office because the public assumes you're hiding something.
Of course he was. But he spent $75 million that he got in a golden parachute when he left the company to win the office and buy it.
Thanks for reminding me. I knew about that. Thank you, Charlie Crist. Good luck in your race down there. Well, before Iowa, more important than New Hampshire, there's one stage every politician must command in politics, and it's tonight's show. You got to be good on that show. We're going to talk about the interesting history of a popular show where the ratings for Jay have always been huge and under Carson, and how it matters in politics. And this is Hardball, a place for politics.